Hey,
Hey,
it's great to see you, Dr. Lyle, and all of you who are joining us now or who will join us. If you haven't been on one of our lives before, you'll know that Dr. Lyle and I are just shooting from the hip, and we love chiropractic. We love chiropractors. We love the people that we serve and the ones that you will serve or that you are serving. And we're doing this on a regular basis. It's been a little sketchy lately because we both have had a lot of travel plans and
my bad.
whatnot. But I asked Dr. Lyle to join me on Droppin TIC Bombs twice a month because I love his passion for chiropractic and I love his understanding of chiropractic philosophy. And I feel that it's incredibly important for all of us to understand chiropractic better. And by so doing, we can also then give that to our practice members and to keep our profession distinct and unique because we are so different than everything else out there. So Dr. Lyle, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
So first, I apologize because June was nuts, but now it's officially 2 weeks, so it should be the 26th. We're doing this again, and then August 9th, which is my birthday, we're doing this again. Thanks. I think now we've got a rhythm. We're good, right?
A pattern. Yes, and I will be on the 26th. We'll be doing it, and I'll be in Virginia for our son's wedding. So he
Very cool.
gets married on the 27th. So I'll be broadcasting somewhere different than with my logo behind me. So it'll be a big surprise to all of you. So the topic that we're talking about today, and for those of you who are unaware, Dr. Lyle has also agreed to be one of the coaches within the 56-day chiropractic boot camp, specifically on chiropractic philosophy, so that whether you've never gotten chiropractic philosophy, or maybe you love chiropractic philosophy and you just want some great reminders and some better ways in order to share with your practice members, he has developed a week of training for all of you within the boot camp. So if you're a boot camper, give a shout out to Dr. Lyle and say thanks. So our topic today is really near and dear to my heart. And part of it is because I'm committed to, in my own and in coaching chiropractors, to make sure that we honor our practice members, to be interested more than we're interesting, to meet them where they are and give them a bigger vision of what's possible in their life as a result of being in a relationship with us as chiropractors. And so what I've asked Dr. Lyle to talk about is the balance between, on that first visit, honoring our practice member and why they're there, as well giving them a framework of what is chiropractic so that their journey can be magnificent, wrapped in chiropractic and chiropractic philosophy. So Dr. Lyle, what do you share with practice members on their first visit regarding chiropractic education?
So and this is what's fun when we do this, because I told Dr. Barb, she goes, "We're gonna do this," and I was like, "Wait, I'll tell you when we do it, because that's the best." I, I remember back in 1989 when I started practice, and I had a gentleman come in, and it was like June of '89, so I literally just opened my clinic, and I had this guy come in, and he owned a large carpet store here in Nebraska. And I did the most incredible day two, which we'll use it on day one, but it was the best day two on the planet Earth, I thought. And I went for about an hour, and he
Awesome.
got done, and he's like, "Hey, Doc, who else in town is as good as you?" And I said, "Well, nobody." And he goes, "Okay, but who else knows as much as you know?" I was like, "Well, this guy's pretty sharp." And he's like, "But he's not as good as I am." And he goes, "Okay, well, I'm going to go see him." I said, "Why are you going to go see him?" He goes, "Doc, I want to be a chiropractic patient. I don't want to be a chiropractor." And I'll never forget that. 30 years later, is I think what happens is chiropractors, especially new docs and even old docs, and we get so excited when that new patient comes in. We just want to tell them everything. We want to tell them about the foundation of chiropractic. When D.D. Palmer not only adjusted Harvey Lillard, but when he adjusted Samuel Weed's family in 1892, which maybe we'll get into someday, but not today. And we want to tell them everything. And really, they don't want, what they want is, can you help me? And what makes you different? And so the first thing that I try to do before I get into can you help me is this is what makes us different. And I listen to our patients. I listen to what their story is, because generally today that doesn't happen. You know, they've been down the road. They've you know, a good friend of mine came in yesterday that had me look at his leg. He's got a rod in it, and he goes, you know, I'm coming to you because at least you're going to listen to me, even though he goes, I know you can't help me with the metal rod that's in my leg, but would you take an x-ray of it? And I was like, yeah. He goes, because if I go anywhere else, they're not going to listen to my story. So the first thing you've got to do is listen to their story. The second thing is, after you listen to their story, then let them know what's different. What I tell our patients, Barb, here's what we look for in our office, which you've probably never heard this word before, but we look for in our office is this imbalance, this misalignment in your spine that's created a fixation or a restriction, and that thing is called subluxation. And what a subluxation is one bone moves from its normal position from another bone, and I show them on the spine that it shifts. And when that occurs, and I say it over and over, and I know this probably sounds different to you, but that's what makes us different, and that's what makes us unique, because nobody else looks for this. But when that spinal bone shifts from where it should, and the reason I felt that you definitely have a subluxation in your spine, Barb, because you told me about that fall that you had 10 years ago, and then you told me about you had this, and I repeat their story to them.
Yeah.
And I relate it back to the subluxate, that this thing that you have, and it makes sense because you have this story, whatever it is, that's gonna create this subluxation in your spine. And what that does is that impinges on that nerve. It restricts that nerve ability to properly work. And in some cases, one of those cases, those nerves is sensory. And in some cases, it may bring pain. That's why you're here today, Mrs. Jones. Now, there is absolutely, and you've already done this, Mrs. Jones, you've taken all of these pain pills, you've done massage, you've done X, Y, and Z. That hasn't worked because they're not addressing the subluxation. That's what makes us different. And I literally give them a 30-second to 2-minute story of what a subluxation is. But why all the stuff that they've done before they came to our office didn't work? Because it doesn't address the subluxation. It just addressed the effects of the subluxation, the symptoms they're having, but it doesn't make the cause go away. And I got to say, I bring it down to 3rd and 4th grade level.
Yeah.
And I stop right there. I'm done. Even whether they say I got it or don't got it, is all that I want to get the head nod. Like, all right, either the head nod is that makes sense, or holy crap, that is different.
Yeah.
So it's that. I mean, keep it simple.
Yeah. And I love the bringing it back to their story and personalizing it and taking this concept that maybe for the first time they've ever heard about it and making it personal to them based on their story, based on their history, based on what brought them to your office. Because then they do hear, you know, it's interesting when I do a call with a new doc, one of the things I do is I go back over what they've told me, and I get a lot of detail in our conversation. They're always like, oh my gosh, I've never had anyone be able to say back to me all of that stuff. And when you say it back, it's like, I didn't either realize how bad it was, or, you know, how big my dreams were, or whatever. And it's the same thing in our offices. Like, you know, one of the greatest things that it brings people together is you listen to me, you hear me, and you actually care. So that right there, like you just said with the gentleman with the rod in his leg, he wanted to go to somebody who would listen. And what a great reputation. Go see Dr. Lyle. He'll listen to you. I mean, talk about a waiting list style practice. a doctor who listens and truly cares is huge. So very cool. I love that.
To go with that a little further, I think what needs to really happen, and this is where I think chiropractors struggle with wanting to talk about the subluxation, the word, it's different. Even not only in the general public, to say subluxation creates an imbalance is a result of an overload of stress, which we're going to get into on the 7-day boot camp. Because there's such a misunderstanding of what causes subluxation by way too many people in the profession that say they understand and how they teach chiropractors. They're teaching it wrong. It's philosophically incorrect, and it's purely incorrect. I might even have to. I think we'll touch base on it here just so people kind of understand, because it's huge.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, well, remind me to come back to that. But so the first thing you have to do as a chiropractor is you have to be comfortable in yourself talking about the subluxation and owning to be able to say it, because chiropractors themselves are afraid to say it amongst their circle of chiropractors, let alone to be able to go out there in the profession and say it to anybody else. I had lunch today with a gentleman who is a medical salesman, and he's a friend. We went and had real quick lunch with each other, and his experience with chiropractic before our office, because he became a patient of ours, was not chiropractic. Here was his experience. He walked in, did some self-traction stuff. Then I don't know if he laid on a table, and then he got some hot packs, and then he kind of adjusted me, I think, and then I left with vitamins, and then he even tried to sell me cookware. And he comes to your office, and he goes, none of that happens, and he goes, and he does this, he goes, but I gotta tell you, my neck and shoulder feel great. I've only adjusted him like a half a dozen times. Mm-hmm. And I use the word only not to minimize the adjustment. I minimize the number of adjustments, because if you address a subluxation, the body's got amazing ability to adapt. Let's go into what is a subluxation really quick. Can we do that?
Yeah.
So here's this misconception that has been said in our profession, and it's incorrect. The 3 T's cause subluxation. No. Can I say it one more time? No. That is wrong. D.D. Palmer did not call them the 3 T's. And they don't cause subluxation. The 3 T's were done because it sells posters. Now, there may be some out there that I just offended, but I don't care. Because it's wrong. I'm not selling a poster. In 1910, which is right there on the lower left by one of my scopes, it says in that textbook that you're exposed to traumatism, toxins, and autosuggestion. So there's this thought, and we're going to use dairy, that because I had this conversation once with the chiropractor, that dairy causes ear infections, which is a result of ear infections there because of subluxation. I said, so you're telling your patients to remove dairy? He goes, yeah. Well, if dairy causes the subluxation, then if you tell the patient to remove the dairy, why are you still adjusting them? And he's like, I said, because that's incorrect. All you're doing is you're stealing money. Dairy does not cause subluxation. Traumatism, toxins, and autosuggestion are an accumulation of stressors. When the stressors are too much, they're called a deconstructive value. They're deconstructive forces, which is a negative survival value. And those become too high, the body has the inability to intellectually adapt. And then as a result, the physical manifestation of the vertebral subluxation sets in. So the reason you have subluxation is the body has the inability to adapt. So you have to understand that as a chiropractor, that what you do is you address the subluxation to help the body intellectually adapt better. They're still going to do that stuff. So don't become their parent and tell them how to cook, walk, change a flat, or whatever, because they're still going to. Well, Reggie used to say that. I remember Reggie said, and this is, because he talked about this on one of his audios, and I remember asking Irene about this. Reggie said, "This, what are you going to change a flat for him too?" And he goes, and if their wife's being difficult, are you going to tell them to have a divorce? I mean, where do you draw the line? Is addressing the stressors, because we talk to them. We feel that for some reason we want to talk to them about their diet. Well, I mean, literally, I got to go unload hay out of the back of my truck. That's a physical stressor. Somebody come do it for me. So we have to understand that the two T's and the A do not cause subluxation. What they are is an overload, which creates a negative survival value. As a result, the body can no longer intellectually adapt. Subluxation steps in. Chiropractors, my advice is listen to that about 950 times. Because if you can own that and then go in there and have a conversation with your patients on every single visit, even day one, or even just now at Harold's Diner that we just ate at, that's been around for 60 years, and I had the greatest hot beef sandwich on the planet Earth. Oh, it's so good. Comfort food. The plate was like this big. It was gigantic. And I felt like a teenager there because everybody there was like 900 years old.
Oh, nice.
We had a lady stop by our table, and she just started staring at my food. And she was literally, I think she was about 140. And I thought I was going to have to wrestle for my food because she kept eyeing it. And she goes, that looks really good. I wish I ever had that. I'm thinking, you're getting really close to my hobby. And so, but understand, chiropractors, that it's the inability to adapt. That's what subluxation is. So now if you own that, and we'll get into it, so you got to get on the boot camps, because we're going to get into that on day 1, day 2 through day 7, more like day 5, 6, and 7. We're really going to get into that. If you can own that, you can have that conversation with people. So sorry, I went off on a tangent. I'm done now.
No, I think that's great. The inability to adapt. It's not all of these things, because if your body can adapt to the amount of stress you're putting it under, like hot dog, that's innate intelligence. That's the status that you want to be in. But when it can't adapt, you're just loading it and loading it and loading it and loading it and loading it. Something's got to give. I mean, it's just like, say it again.
Limitations of matter.
The limitations of matter. Like it can only stand so much. Like it's not a machine. It's not like a piece of steel. It's subjected to all of this, and it's an accumulation over time, which is why chiropractic before conception is the best thing for every human being, to give them the greatest opportunity to express optimum well-being and innate intelligence at its maximum.
Well, and that's where we're having that conversation then when you have to understand it first as a chiropractor. Mm-hmm. And I mean that to some out there, you really, it may take you 30, 60, 90 days to really digest and understand it, to really go, okay, I can go in and say it. Because you don't want to go in there and sell a widget, but not believe in the widget. And so you really have to own it before you can sell it. So here's my advice. Right now, listen to this. If you don't, please don't go in like it's 3:05 Central Time in Omaha, Nebraska. Don't go in at 3:15 and go, I'm going to talk subluxation, because you know what? You're not going to own it. So I really mean that, is really own it and get a depth of understanding yourself, so that the product that you're digging into with your patients, you can do that. And then you can do that on day 1 and really understand it. And have that, and instead of having, and I'm sorry if people do this, I don't mean to step on toes, but to have that 52 visit conversation, because I really did that at one time, and that was terrible because I can't forget what I had to say. My conversation is this: I help you. What I do is I look for misalignments in your spine, which is called subluxation. The reason you get those, because you overload the system. I'm going to help you adapt. It's up to you not to overload the system. I'm not your parent. I'm not going to tell you when you go to bed. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. I'm not going to tell you how to lift. What I'm going to tell you is I'll see you Thursday at 2:15. And let's see what you did to goof everything up. So it comes down to you, Mrs. Jones. If you decide you want to ease up on yourself, you don't have to see me as often. But if you're going to overdo it, guess what? You're going to see me more often. Totally up to you. Stop being their parent. Plain and simple. Put it on them.
Yeah. And they're either going to step up and take responsibility, or they're not. And it doesn't, I think sometimes we feel like we take it personally if they don't continue on with care. But we have to step up and go, okay, did I do everything that I could in order to support them, in order to help them see the consequences of their decisions, the benefits as well, like the pros and the cons. And then after that, if they make the decision that I'm just going to roll the dice and hope for the best, that when I overload myself, like I'm willing to live with the consequences, so be it. But please, at least why start with the attitude and start with the systems whereby you give them the best opportunity to do well, to understand their body, how amazing it is, but that there are limitations of matter. I had a conversation with somebody, I can't remember, or maybe it was Dr. Sarah, the other day, and we were talking about nutrition. And I think you and I have talked about this before too. And when a practice member asks you about nutrition advice, to simply go, well, is there some change that you could make in your nutrition that would be beneficial? And they're like, yeah, start there. You probably already know one thing to do. Start there. And I'm happy to support you and ask you about it, but just start there with one thing. It doesn't have to be like something magnificent, and I'm not a specialist in that, but I can support that you probably know at least one thing that would make a difference, and that's a great place to start. Is that how you address nutrition in your office, or how do you address it?
Well, I address, first of all, there's 87,000 books on Amazon that tell people how to eat. I don't think they need any more. This is how I tell people to, they want to talk about nutrition and start my conversation this way. I love to eat, yes. It's kind of like, this is, if I have, and they push and they want to have the nutrition conversation, and I respect that because they're coming to us at advice. So the first thing I tell them is, and they know pretty simple, when you walk into our office, that we don't do that stuff, because I don't have it in my clinic. I have a refrigerator to keep our food in. That's about it. And I love when Sharon brings us cakes and cookies. They're incredible. And Lucille makes the second best apple pie on the planet. My mother-in-law's is the best. But when they do that and they want to push and ask questions, I'm like, Barb, it's kind of like this. If it comes in a box, a bag, or a can, it's probably not good to eat. But if it falls off a tree, comes out of the ground, falls out of the sky, comes out of the water, or it's walking across the earth, I'd probably eat that. If it survives a nuclear war, don't eat it.
Yeah, that's right.
You continue to eat that stuff because you're going to. Face it, you're going to still eat the Doritos because it's a pretty bag and they taste good. It's going to overload the system. Let's get you checked.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that, and I can say this because I can't say it happens on every patient because it doesn't. But I can say it happens sometimes throughout every single day in the clinic. They'll come in and say, Doc, I overdid it. I did this. Doc, I've been thinking like crap. I've been stressing out at work. Because we've taught them every single visit that subluxation is created by the body's inability to adapt what you do. It's up to you. You determine how often you come see me. And once they get through their initial corrective care, and because I get this now, Doc, am I going to have to come once a week, once a month? Up to you. But here's what I do know, Barb. The greatest athletes in the world, to keep their bodies at a peak condition, get regular chiropractic care, not regular Vicodin and oxycodone visits. So do you want to be like an elite athlete, or do you want to be like, some dude suffering and struggling? Which do you prefer?
Right.
Because to me, I think you deserve the elite athletes. And what they do is they get regular care. And they don't have regular oxycodone and Vicodin visits because they know that's toxic to their body. And that's huge when you hit that to them, because I hit that and I hit that.
Yeah, and consistency of the message. It's not how many messages, but the consistency. The first law of learning is repetition. So keep telling the story, keep telling the story, keep telling the story, have different analogies, different ways to present the exact same topic.
What's that? They got a swoosh. What's that company?
Oh, yeah. Night.
Saying just.
Yeah, right. Just.
I can advertise more because I forgot it. It's interesting because you're consistently saying the swoosh with the just do it. So why in the world does our profession think we have to have a different story, a different message every single visit? Nike, how often do you see the swoosh with just do it? Why can't we do that? Oh, wait, we know more. Yeah, don't get me on that one. You talk about this. I just thought of this too, and I had this conversation with one of my docs last night. If a patient doesn't get it, we take it personally. Been there. But have you ever walked into a store and like went to pick something off a shelf and a clerk comes over and helps you and then you walk out and you didn't buy it? You ever done that?
Lots of times.
Okay, and do you suppose that the clerk goes to the back with the other clerks and goes, oh man, my day is terrible. I had a lady come in and she didn't buy that gown and oh, my life sucks. No, because they know there's somebody else who's going to come in. You know, I mean, so you've got to adopt that philosophy too, chiropractors, is some people just aren't a fit for you. It's okay. I mean, you take a whopping care of what, 4% of the population? I don't know about you, but if you live in a town of like 100,000 people and you got 2 or 3 or 4% that actually seek chiropractic care, there's a lot of people in your town. So don't beat yourself up over those few, because guess what? I guarantee you, clerks don't get bummed when you don't buy that shirt hanging on a shelf. They know somebody else is coming in to buy that shirt off that shelf. Adopt that. That's another conversation we can have too. Abundance mentality.
Yeah. And I think with that too, like just because they don't do it right now doesn't mean they never will. I mean, in our own lives, the first time that you're exposed to something fabulous, do you always jump in? Probably not. You may test the water. What's that?
They're going to go check you out, especially chiropractors. They're going to Google you, review you, ask their neighbors, ask the guy at the gas station, thought of being a, I mean, they're going to ask everybody. One of my guys yesterday had a gentleman, 18 months. He has been coming in with his wife twice a week, 18 months. He's going to start care Saturday.
Right.
18 months. For the condition he had 18 months ago, he's finally decided. And so I asked him, I said, so, and I said, what was the final? Because he was up front. I was like, hey, you're finally going to get checked. That's so cool, man. Welcome to the office. I can't wait to have you start care with us on Saturday. I was like, so why now? He's like, well, you know what? I've tried everything else out. 18 months. So you know what he's been doing for the 18 months. So don't quit.
Yeah. And don't get mad. Just keep loving them. Just keep loving them. Just keep loving them, and answer questions and pose questions to them as well. If they're coming in with their spouse, just like, how's it going, John? It's great to see you today. Thanks for bringing Mary in. You know, like, thanks for supporting her. Thanks for being on her team. All of those things, and just keep building the relationship.
Our question yesterday, because I always send a question out every single day to the guys and my staff. So I send it out to the team every day at 1:00. I send a question out to them to make them think about it. And that's the conversation the next day. Granted, the conversation isn't with every single person. I mean, I'm not one of those that you're going to have this conversation with everybody. If you see 100, if you know 100 people and you have the conversation with 5 or 10, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's being realistic. I'm not one of these that go every, you know, what's that? I remember once going to a chiropractic seminar and I first in practice, and this guy stood on stage and he goes, every one of my patients refers, none of my patients reschedule, and they all pay. And I got in my car and I drove home with my wife. And I literally said this, I go, honey, we suck. Because not every one of our patients refers, not everyone stays and all like that. And it was the, you know, the chiropractic poet. And as I further along in practice, I was like, yeah, he was telling stories.
Yeah.
So realistically, I'm going to say this. I send this question out to the crew. And if they ask 5 or 6 people this question, it's a great question. And so I got to find it here because it was really good. So give me a second. So please sing in the background if you want. But this was a really good question I sent out yesterday. Wasn't it, Sean? Yes. It was a great question. All right. So here it is. In debating is, and if debating with the PT or drugs versus our office, if the money is the same, which would you want to own, or who would you rather do business with? Us, the PT, or take the drugs? When you get that answer, then you keep asking why else? Why? Till there's no longer further way to answer it. The reason I pose that question, and I did it to a couple patients, is I want them to derive at the answer on themselves. Mm-hmm. Instead of saying, me great, come see me, is I want the patient to derive that answer on themselves. Like, well, by taking the drugs, you know. And here's an example on the idiocy of drugs. I'm going to do a Facebook Live on it when you are done, but you're going to get a hit on it now. The gentleman that came to our house to do some work in our barn was getting dizzy. So here's what medicine did. They gave him, and his ears were getting full. They said, it's because of the allergies. So as a result of the allergies, they gave him allergy drug. Well, guess what the allergy drug did? Now gave him high blood pressure.
Awesome.
So now he's got to take high blood pressure medication. So now he's got to decide, because he can't afford it because they're both expensive, do I worry about my allergies or my high blood pressure? My wife's like, do you know that you can overload the system and it creates this? And she explained subluxation. And all that she did was just planted the seed. Just plant that seed.
Okay.
Keep planting that seed and keep planting that seed and keep planting that seed. So anyway, I've gone off on a tangent again. I know we're supposed to go 15 minutes, went a half an hour. I'm sorry.
I love it. We always over deliver. Never apologize for over delivering. That's just the standard for sure. All right. So all of you, thank you so much for joining us. Or if you watch this later, we'll be back on in 2 weeks. If there is something, what?
July 26th. I'll be here.
July 26th. If there is something that you specifically want us to talk about, whether you want to remain anonymous or you would like to be involved in the conversation, let us know. This isn't just about like Barb and Lyle hanging out. This is because we care about all of you. And
I got it in my phone now.
He's got it in his phone, so it's a real thing. 2 weeks from today. So thanks, everyone. God bless you. Have a great day, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye.